Welcome back to the conversation. Now, Ghana's cybersecurity framework has shifted sharply with the passage of the Cybersecurity Amendment Bill 2025. Building on the 2020 Act, it broadens cybercrime definitions, stiffens penalties, and gives the Cybersecurity Authority wider powers. The most disputed clauses criminalize false or misleading information and offensive communications carrying jail terms of up to 10 years for certain online posts. The bill's vague language has stirred public concern, with critics calling it draconian and warning it could be used to silence journalists, activists, and political opponents under the guise of cybersecurity enforcement. So at this time, we're joined by Shadrach Kundi, an international security analyst, Africa Center for International Affairs, and of course, is in Ghana. Thank you so much, Shadrach, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and we also have, of course, you're welcome. We also have Abubakar Issaka, of course, is the president of Cybersecurity Expert Associations of Ghana. Thank you so much, sir, for coming around.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. So let me start with Shadrach. Now, looking at this bill, is the government truly redefining cybersecurity to regulate and ensure a safe social space, or is it a plot to control online information?
Okay, so for me, I believe it's a mix of both. And the very fact that it's a bill and we have to go into several phases of deliberation with the Ghanaian legislative body, that's the Parliament of Ghana, in order for it to become a law. There are several aspects of it in which reading you will find it very, very stable. However, there is still room for some level of deliberation. And I believe the Cybersecurity Authority has a mandate to engage various stakeholders in order to ensure that these laws that are seeking to infuse new stuff that have come into the IT space, that's the cybersecurity space, should be infused within our laws so that it will be able to give more powers to the Cybersecurity Authority to be able to execute its mandates, looking at the widening scope of the cybersecurity space. I believe this is a starting point for further conversation. The stakeholders who have come out to give their opinions about the bill, I think this is something that parliamentarians will take into consideration. Also, the various committees of parliament that will be designated for the purposes of passing this particular bill. We'll look at it very well for the purposes of ensuring that there is a fair balance to ensure that we are not stifling the freedom of speech, we are not censoring media personnel, we are not censoring citizens, ensuring that we are protecting the digital rights of all Ghanaians who this law would abide or would encompass or directly impact, and ensure that the cybersecurity space in terms of digital innovation is also protected. We're looking at our space or the cybersecurity space in Ghana. It's more of emerging technologies and emerging ideas which are coming up.
Okay.
We shouldn't put bottlenecks to stifle their initiatives. So that's my initial comment on what's been going on for some time now with regards to the bill.
All right.
But it must be clearly that it's a bill at this point, and it has not become law yet. So
of course,
there is more space for us to deliberate and see the way forward.
Yeah, we understand. Abubakar, well, some people in some quarters have actually questioned why they need to even amend the Cybersecurity 2020 Act when the issue has to do with enforcement. From your own assessment, do you think this new bill is actually necessary? Can it actually deliver on sanitizing the Ghanaian cyberspace?
Well, I will start by saying that the amendment is something that we realized after the enactment of the Cybersecurity Act at 1038, when the former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, appended his assent on it in December 2020. After that, we realized that the Cybersecurity Act 1038 has a whole lot of gaps, and it does not actually meet with all the necessary technologies, emerging technology that we have to talk about. So there have been call from us, the expert group, that we have to have another look at the Cybersecurity Act 1038 and then try to fill the gaps so that perpetrators of these cyber crimes will not explore on these gaps to be able to siphon monies from people. So it is something that we needed to fill gaps in the act so that it can be a holistic regulation. And also, we also realize that we know how emerging technology is and how technology keeps evolving. And so, therefore, we need to also catch up with the pace in terms of safeguarding digital infrastructures, in terms of safeguarding critical infrastructures as well, and in terms of also protecting the citizens of Ghana. So, based on that, we all agree to the fact that we need to have an amendment to the Act 1038 so we can fill the gaps. And it is a laudable call that has actually been put to action. However, we have our exceptions after the draft was submitted to us, and then we have duly submitted our concerns as well to the relevant authorities and expect, hopefully, that the ministry and the authority will be able to handle this very, very well in fixing all the gaps.
Okay. Now, Shadrach, I want to believe part of the exceptions that Abubakar might be talking about in this particular bill is the phrase of course, the phrase in part of this bill that talks about false or misleading contents or posts. For you, what would you consider as truly false or misleading under this particular amended cybersecurity bill? And do you think that the laws actually capture the true essence of what misinformation is?
Okay, so within the past years or within recent years, information itself has become a tool for security in terms of how some information can culminate to form what we will call either disinformation or misinformation. And looking at false statements, if we are supposed to look at the lexicon false in itself, implying that a statement that may not have any outside of truth. However, misleading is quite on the lay side, implying that if we say misleading information or misleading content, such content may be any other content depending on who is interpreting the term. So it makes it quite big in terms of its applicability, and it might stifle political dissent. It may also influence political satire in the country. You know, there are certain circumstances for the purposes of political satire. We do, or some institutions bring up cartoon network or cartoon programming or cartoon graphics to just put up some level of creativity within the political space. It may stifle that. In terms of crystal blowing, it may also stifle crystal blowing and also critiques by opposition members, because such act or such post may be interpreted as misleading, therefore leading to chilling effects on institutions like journalists, activists, and also influence public debate. So on the terms of either false, if a statement is false, if a particular post is false, it is false. But when it comes to issue of misleading information or misleading content, it's quite vague and it may target a particular group of people, as inserted in section 67A of the amendments.
All right. All right, so Abubakar, we're still talking about exceptions or probably reservations that you might have about these bills. Some people have said that some sections of it might appear harsh. For instance, the 10-year jail term for digital offenses committed if one is found culpable. How do you see it? Do you think it serves the best interests of the Ghanaian population, or it's just way overboard in terms of penalties? Abubakar, we seem to have lost audio from your end.
All right, sorry, can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, go ahead now.
The 10-year jail term, as stated in the drafted amendment, says a fine or a prison term up to 10 years. This suggests that the weight of the offense determines the jail term that one will have to serve if found culpable of misinformation, disinformation, or misleading messages. Now, to the professional body, because I stand as the president of the Cybersecurity Expert Association of Ghana, I speak on behalf of the cybersecurity professionals. It is a mixed feeling, and then where we spot the challenge has to do with defamation under the civil law in our country. In our civil law, penalties for defamation is either payment of damage with no jail. So what it means is that once you defame someone with information that is either misleading, then you pay damages to the person that you've offended, and you do not save jail terms. But if you go to the criminal offenses that talks about publication of false news, it has a jail term of up to 3 years. So therefore, we are trying to reason the rationale behind misinformation and disinformation, which then shoots up to 10 years jail term here. So we see a lack of coordination and then disparities in these regulations that I just mentioned. So therefore, we have actually tabled to the relevant authorities, suggesting to them that that section should be looked at so that it goes in conformity with other regulations, so that it does not become harsher to the offender. That notwithstanding, it is something that Ghana is dealing with currently. If you look at the last year's election, 2024 election, we as a professional body has to come up with a whole lot of publications and reportage to sensitize the public to, as it may, try as much as possible to desist from misleading the public on the event of politics where information is disseminated to the general populace, and then even trying to use advanced technologies like AI, deepfake, and the rest to try to mislead the public. So it is something that has been in existence for quite a long time, and perpetrators of these acts sometimes go scot-free because there is no law that explicitly try to handle this. But the 10-year jail term is something that I must say is harsh, and it does not coordinate with the civil law, and does not also coordinate with the Ghanaian criminal law.
All right. Yes, let's talk about the adequacy of this particular bill, Shadrach. We have issues around cyberbullying, cyberstalking, and harassment. Now, how do you think these can actually pose a security threat to a human or an institution? And how sure are you that the provisions of this particular bill would adequately deal with these certain threats?
Okay, so when you look at Section 67B of inserted amendments, you realize that there are some provisions made for protecting individuals, including children and also adults from cyber stalking, bullying, and other cyber misconduct that's identified. And their security implications are quite dire, in the sense that we've now created a realm within the cyber space that particular realm has become a space where individuals can be harmed by way of information that is being disseminated to them. So there is a securitized aspect of it that may damage or may have impact on the psychological makeup of an individual if that person is being bullied, especially for children, of which the inserted amendment has made provisions for. However, there is a split divide on another issue of cyber stalking, in the sense that because there is a mention of anonymity of accounts or anonymity of media cyber presence, which may also be culminating into cyber stalking. It may also stifle or may militate against the activities of whistleblowers who always want to make their accounts or want to keep themselves anonymous. Also, activists who seek to put in certain information within the media space to sensitize individuals on specific things that are usually politically sensitive will also be targeted if extremities within these laws are being taken by political actors within that particular era.
All right.
So in terms of bullying, in terms of stalking, as inserted in section 67B of the Act, I think it's a two-way round or a two-way analysis in terms of its security implication.
All right.
Despite the fact that we have limitating impact on the individuals and persona in terms of influencing them psychologically. It may also stifle the activities of activists, whistleblowers, and also political activists.
All right, so Abubakar, it's of course a concerning issue when it comes to stifling, most especially critical information that the public might actually need. So we may need to also look at this even as we wrap up on this. Now, could this law, or this bill rather, make investigative journalism practically impossible without risking prosecution? Because we have journalists and whistleblowers who might publish some sensitive stories, but then those affected might see it as offensive communication.
Well, I can agree with you on that score halfway, Lekan, but let me say that the angle of misinformation and disinformation is something that we are demanding clarity in the draft amendment. However, if you look at the concept of the amendment that is being brought to bear right now, it has something to do with the amendment trying to focus on information that are misleading but not investigative reports that are being channeled out from fraternity. This came up and then I responded to a whole lot of media houses on this concept, trying to demystify the concept between reportage, investigative journalism, trying to come up with report that is like undercover reportage and all that. It is different from the fact that one uses his or her social media platform to churn out fake information or fake news, trying to perpetrate a certain message that will possibly defame an individual or possibly try to undermine a citizen or threat the peace of the country. And these are the focus areas.
Okay.
However, I must start to say that the prosecutorial powers that the Cybersecurity Authority is requesting for in this amendment would then have to do justice by trying to determine whether this information is either misleading or not.
Okay.
But then, this is not to say that the independence of the media, it is going to be in question after the enactment of these bill.
Well,
because once this regulation is enacted, it is not in any way going to impede the independence of the media in the country, because in Ghana, we all hold it as a very great tool. And trust me, before I became, I joined or became cybersecurity expert, I was a journalist as well. So I passionately feel the question that you asked, and then I would say that it is going to, due diligence will be done in determining which information constitutes disinformation or misinformation.
All right. Thank you so much, Abubakar. We're hoping that after stakeholders' engagement and the adoption of the provisions of this bill, when it comes to, of course, recommendations and most importantly, implementation, it will be able to give some sort of credibility to Ghana's technological space at the end of the day. Thank you so much, Abubakar Issaka, Cybersecurity Experts Association of Ghana President, and of course Shadrach Kundi, International Security Analyst at the African Center for International Affairs. It was nice talking to you guys.